And the government has wasted no time after the roundtable, announcing today that they will pause the National Construction Code, other than for safety requirements, until 2029 and take 26,000 home approvals out of the environmental law's approval process, both measures to speed up housing construction. Here is the Treasurer flagging this on Thursday night.
We've asked Clare O'Neil to see where we can reduce complexity and red tape in the National Construction Code, to do that in a balanced way, which takes into consideration some of the concerns which were raised. You know that this was raised with us in the lead up to the roundtable as well, and so we were able to do some work. We've asked Clare to do that work relatively swiftly.
Joining me live is the Housing Minister, Clare O'Neil. Clare O'Neil, thanks so much for your time. Let's start with this pause of changes that you're announcing today to the National Construction Code. This was leaked as a possible outcome before the roundtable. Had it been predetermined?
No, Andrew, it hadn't. It's part of a package of reforms which will see us focus on the main game in housing, which is building more homes more quickly. If I step us back for a moment, we've got a housing crisis in Australia that's been cooking for 40 years. And for that entire period, we have not been building the homes that Australians need. The Productivity Commission did a report for us in February which showed that instead of productivity in housing increasing over time, it's actually been decreasing consistently for 30 years. And the biggest single problem they identified is red tape, bureaucracy and delay. So these changes are really about saying we want our builders doing what they do best, which is building high quality homes for Australians, not seeing them trapped in the back office, filling in forms and dealing with red tape.
Is this an admission that changes to the code previously has also hurt that productivity, including those around green tape, which your government supported?
Look, I think we need to take a balanced approach to this code, Andrew. No one who's watching right now wants us to see building standards reduced in Australia. It's obvious that we've got energy efficiency standards that need to be improved over time. I think the biggest issue we've got in the code at the moment is just sheer complexity. This is a code which has ballooned out to more than 2,000 pages. It's full of addendums of different codes and standards that apply in different states. And it's not a tool that's usable for our builders. Remember that the average size of a construction firm in Australia today is fewer than 2 employees. These are not huge companies that have departments that can help them interpret this regulation. So it's really about streamlining, about simplifying and making sure that we provide builders the very best opportunity to build more homes more quickly, because at the end of the day, this is the cause of our housing crisis, and the solution is to do what we're doing, which is let our builders do what they do best.
One of the things that was in the new code is that all houses must have an EV charger installed, apparently. Was the government's hunger to meet net zero getting in the way on housing costs and getting homes built?
I wouldn't put it like that at all, Andrew. I mean, we want to have energy efficient houses, and of course climate change is a reality that's got to be dealt with. But we want to do this in a way that's workable for our builders. The way that we've approached this really is that we made a significant upgrade to energy efficiency standards in 2022, which I might say were well overdue. But because of the decision the government's made, there really won't be meaningful changes to the code for a 9-year period. And this is where, sorry, not a 9-year period, a 7-year period. So this is where we're giving our builders a bit of room to breathe and a chance for us to sit down and work with everyone who's involved with this code to say how are we going to build really high quality homes for Australians, but also make sure that we're not putting lots of barriers and hurdles in the path of our fantastic building industry.
Wasn't this Peter Dutton's idea that the government dismissed at the time, pausing the code?
Not at all. The idea that the Liberals brought to the last election was a blunt force instrument, a 10-year freeze that would have seen the government not be able to deal with urgent safety and consumer issues that arise in the building code and need to be urgently addressed. We've got the balance right here, and that's why industry are with us on this one. I'm actually standing up with the Property Council and the Housing Industry Association a little bit later this morning, and those industry groups are saying this is the right balance here. Australians want high quality homes. They want standards to improve gently over time, but at the same time, we've got to have a building code that's workable and usable, and these are the objectives that will drive the work that we do on this code going forward.
The industry says that 2023 changes to the code resulted in houses that now cost $30,000 to $50,000 more. Do you accept that?
What I accept is that there were no serious attempts over the almost decade that the Coalition were in power to do what was necessary around energy efficiency standards. And I think what we see is that when you see long periods of inaction on the code, that 2022 change was really about stepping up something that could have been dealt with better over a longer period of time.
So does it make houses cost $30,000 to $50,000 more? Would you accept that?
Well, that's what the sector says. I'm not going to get into a debate. What I will say is that we've got a national construction code here which has become unworkable for our builders. You know, there's no simple tool to use it. It's much too long, much too complicated. And the Productivity Commission has told us that this is the main federal barrier to us building the homes that we need. And we've just used the roundtable to chart a really clear course to have a balanced approach to manage that for our builders. We've also made some changes to the way that the EPBC Act works with housing, Andrew. So this is about federal environmental approvals, which is not working well for housing at the moment. And the changes that we're announcing on that front, the Property Council has said will unlock tens of thousands of homes that our country desperately needs. These are big, meaningful steps forward on housing that have come as a direct result of the roundtable conversation.
Such is the housing crisis that you mentioned. Is it time to just pare this construction code back to what it was originally about, which is building safety rather than wheelchair access and energy efficiency? Or do you not accept that?
Look, I think Australians want high quality homes, and the construction code is our main vehicle to make sure that our builders are continuously improving their work. But all of this, of course, Andrew, is about balance. There won't be a single person watching right now who says, let's just throw the baby out with the bathwater and we should allow Australians to live in substandard housing to try to manage the housing issues that we have as a country. We can actually build more homes more quickly and do it in a way that sees us build high quality homes. And this is the balance the government is striking. We're talking here, the National Construction Code on one hand, this environmental approvals on the other, about bureaucracy that just isn't working for housing. It doesn't mean that we strip back standards and throw out all the good work that's been done to build quality homes around the country. It means that we make these regulations fit for purpose and easier for the sector to use. So a revision of the National Construction Code, a pause of that code while we work through those changes, and then on the environmental protection side, a fast track of at least 26,000 homes that are clogged in that process somewhere at the moment. These are really common sense things. They've got strong consensus behind them. And at the end of the day, this is exactly what the Economic Reform Roundtable was all about.
Just on those 26,000 homes, where are these homes and why are they in the EPBC process?
It's a really good question, and they're sort of strewn around the country, but we do have a lot of these homes that are in Queensland at the moment. I just mentioned that. So why are they clogged in the process? The federal government regulates for environmental and heritage approvals. And one of the really big problems with the EPBC, which your viewers will have heard about a lot over the last couple of years, is that it somehow allows us to duplicate regulation at a state and federal level, and that's not a good thing. So as well as fast-tracking decision-making on this 26,000 homes, the Environment Minister and I are working on how the EPBC Act should treat housing generally and trying wherever possible for us to allow state governments to do proper heritage and environmental assessments and do it once, and for the Commonwealth to make decisions based on those. So in Queensland, for example, we don't have a very good system in place between the Queensland State Government and the Commonwealth Government. And so a lot of housing projects in Queensland have to go through this onerous state process and then go through the federal process. Now, that's just not sensible, and it's certainly not desirable for housing. So these are the issues that the Minister and I are working on. Number one, fast-tracking that 26,000 homes that are in the system at the moment. But secondly, in the broader context of reform that Murray Watt is working on, how can we make sure that housing is dealt with in a streamlined way, because we desperately need more homes for Australians in our country, and this is the way to get it.
Do you have any hope of meeting your 1.2 million homes target by 2030? Because it's said that you only meet about 900,000 at the moment.
Yeah, so we're about a year into a 5-year target here, and if I can just speak quickly to the critical importance of us setting an ambitious national aspiration for building homes around our country. We've got a housing crisis because for 40 years we haven't been building enough homes. And, you know, for a long time the Commonwealth Government tapped out of housing policy altogether. Our Prime Minister's taken a different view. He stepped right in and said that the Commonwealth is going to show national leadership on this issue. So the Prime Minister sat down and National Cabinet set the national ambition that we would try as a country to build 1.2 million homes
Can you meet
over
the
a
target?
5-year period.
Can you meet the target, Clare O'Neil?
So we are working towards making the target. This is a really ambitious goal for the country, and I hope people see and applaud that ambition, because this is exactly what is needed. We need energy and drive, which is going to make us change the way housing works in our country. We are going to need to see significant change, not just at the federal level, but at the state level, the local government level, and in industry, if we are going to meet that target. But I just point you to the words of people like Mike Zorbas from the Property Council, who have said the setting of this target is already having an impact. We have got for the first time in my lifetime, a real uniformity of energy around housing policy, and we're seeing massive change. Look at what the New South Wales state government is doing on planning, a second wave of radical reforms which will see us be able to build more homes more quickly. So we're seeing really radical action across all 3 levels of government, and we just have to keep going for the coming 4 years.
You copped a lot of heat as Home Affairs Minister for letting too many people into the country too quickly, but how great in terms of the housing shortage and cost of housing is the lack of construction workers around? Do we need more migration for that?
Well, we have a healthy number of construction workers coming into the country through the migration system at the moment, Andrew. The numbers from the most recent final year are about 11,000. So this is a good and important part of the overall workforce. As an Australian government, of course, our main focus and priority is making sure that we've got Aussies ready for these fantastic trades jobs. You know, fee-free TAFE is one of the most important things our government has done, in my view. 500,000 people who have got themselves better educated through that system, and tens of thousands of those have been in trades. So we've got to continue that work. At the end of the last term, the Prime Minister announced a new apprenticeship payment for tradies who decide to undertake their apprenticeship in residential construction of $10,000. That will have an impact, but we've got to keep working on this skills issue as a country. We do need more tradies.
Just on that, the industry is complaining that whilst you have a $10,000 payment to apprentices, there's nothing there to pay employers to encourage them to take on apprentices, which they need if people don't have all the skills yet. Will you look to do that? Will you look to provide employers with some money to encourage them to take on apprentices?
Yeah, that is the view in the sector, and it's something that we're continuing a conversation with them on. I would say they're super supportive of the $10,000 that goes to that young person who's getting themselves educated as a sparky or a carpenter. These are really important trades that the country needs, and, you know, the sector's very supportive of what we've done on trades already. We're going to have to continue that conversation with them over the coming years.
Now, on tax reform, you would have heard my report at the top of the program. Is this round table one big excuse for Jim Chalmers to come up with some proposals on negative gearing and capital gains tax ahead of the next election?
The roundtable's been 3 days of really constructive and productive conversation, which was designed to help us get a bunch of quick wins, get a bunch of really important common sense things moving in the system, and then chart a course to deal with some of the longer term issues facing the country. On those quick wins, you've seen us do that today in housing. 48 hours after the roundtable, we're making 2 really big decisions that will unlock tens of thousands of homes and make the life of our builders much easier in our country. And the tax reform piece I'd put on the longer term agenda. We've got a tax policy as a government, and that is we want to give a tax cut to every single Australian taxpayer, something the Liberals voted against, which I'm sure you'll talk to Ted O'Brien about when he comes on in a moment, Andrew. It would be nonsensical to have a productivity conversation as a country without addressing tax reform. But the Treasurer has talked about this as longer-term charting a course
as Housing Minister, as Housing Minister, would you like to see changes to negative gearing and capital gains tax, particularly as it relates to people having more than one investment property?
Andrew, my objective of Housing Minister is absolutely clear. We've got to build more homes more quickly. The main game here is supply. For all of you who are watching at home, if you're concerned about housing because you see that rising population of homelessness, or whether it's the young people in your life who you're worried about being able to get into stability, or whether it's that, growing population of older women who are really struggling with housing stability, at the end of the day, all of these things come back to our supply challenge. So we have a laser-like focus on this, a $43 billion agenda, the main focus of which is building more homes more quickly. And the two changes that we've announced today are about supporting that. We've got to get our construction sector expanding its capacity, and that is the only real way for us to deal with the long-term housing challenges we face.
Clare O'Neil, if we are 3 months from the election and the Treasurer is already looking to undertake massive tax reform and possibly tax people more, does that mean you were elected under false pretences?
Andrew, I'm not sure that the Treasurer would characterise what's happening here in the language that you've chosen to use. The Treasurer has just hosted a very productive and constructive 3 days of conversation about productivity. It would not make any sense at all to have a productivity conversation without touching on the issue of tax reform. Of course, we've got challenges in our tax reform. Every single country in the world does, because it's impossible to perfect such a complex system. The Treasurer hosted a roundtable with the objective of doing some short-term, common-sense, consensus-based things that can happen quickly, and you've seen those in my area of housing today, and a second set of issues which are really about the big long-term challenges facing the country.
Which is the point, isn't it? He wants some kind of tax which takes from the old and gives to the young. He keeps talking about intergenerational.
Well, the Treasurer
isn't that what he wants?
The Treasurer has not said anything of the sort, Andrew. I think the roundtable's had a really good, healthy conversation about some of the challenges which are fairly obvious in the tax system today. And the Treasurer has talked about this as long-term issues that might be looked at. But this is not something that the government's considering at the moment. We've got a tax policy. It's to give every single Australian taxpayer a tax cut. We've done that not once, but now twice. This is a really good thing for the country because we want working people to earn more and keep more of what they earn. So that's the government's approach to taxation. And there's a bigger picture policy conversation happening that's not about what the government's intending to do. We're intending to give every single taxpayer a tax cut, and I'm really thrilled about that.
Housing Minister Clare O'Neil, thanks so much for your time.